You're listening to the Best Company Show, Southern California's business podcast, focusing on topics of interest to CEOs and managers of middle market companies, with your host, Robert J. Curtis.
And welcome again to this edition of the Best Companies radio show and podcast. This is Robert J. Curtis. I'm your host, and we're glad to have you here listening and watching us. This is, I believe, episode number 18, I think, at this point. We'll have to double check that because I don't remember. We've gotten really busy lately. But my special guests today for this episode are Lee Godden and Bob Dahl from Advantage Improv, right?
Yes, that is us.
Okay, great. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm very pleased to have you here. And I want to introduce you and tell a little bit about what you do. Okay, so I guess the best way to introduce you would be to talk about the importance of what you bring to leadership and management. Sure. And if you think about it, one of the most important skills any leader can have is agility, or the ability to adapt to ongoing and changing circumstances. And what you do with Advantage Improv is help train leaders and managers, and I guess customer service people also, on how to maximize their ability to adapt to changing circumstances. And it's a wonderful situation. I think it's great to have guys like you out here doing what you do. And not only me, but companies like Adobe, Microsoft, Ayers Hotel, Beckman Coulter, and a lot of companies are using you to help bring their people up to speed and improve their skills on this whole idea of improv in the business world. So tell me about it. Let's start. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And I don't know who wants to talk first, Lee or Bob. Tell me.
We're going to do alphabetical order?
Yeah, let's do alphabetical order.
Okay, perfect.
Well, it started, we're long-time improvisers. We're also long-time business professionals. And we met a bunch of years ago where we merged those two ideas together. And it's been a great marriage of the disciplines of business and this creativity of improv. And they go very well together. As you mentioned, this agility we found is just so important on the improv stage. In fact, it can't happen without it. And the same thing is happening with business communication. You have to be agile today.
Okay, but how does it translate and work? Most businesses that I deal with, they don't think of improv or acting, essentially what they think of as an acting skill, as applying to business. How does it apply? How do you bring it to the business world?
It's actually growing. If you look at the body of evidence from university research, every year it's getting more and more that if you get your MBA right now at the Haas School up at Berkeley, for example, one of your final elective choices for the last few years has been applied improvisation. Google has an in-house improv teacher. And of course, we're teaching, Cisco and Deloitte and Microsoft, a lot of companies. And it's a trend. There's a confusion point we have to address immediately, which is this has nothing to do with being funny. Even though improv shows are often quite funny, it has a lot to do with just yes-anding your scene partner on stage. That's really all it is. And those who've watched the TV show Whose Line Is It Anyway, which originated back in England, and now it's a U.S. TV show. It's an improvised TV show. They get suggestions from the audience, and they do scenes on stage made from thin air. That all stems from what we teach, which is yes and, actively listen, accept in advance what was just said, and it translates remarkably well into the world of business.
Basically adapting the mind of an improviser. Without that mindset and without those skills and principles, the improv scene can't happen. And so it's a great metaphor for business communication.
That's awesome. So, really what you're doing is you're working on essentially very similar things to what I work on, which is essentially soft skills and the ability to, perform better in varying environments, and yours specifically addressing those issues like changes, like unusual circumstances. And does that translate to particular niches of people, or is it across the board for business?
I think it's across the board. I mean, we've dealt with all types of different businesses as well as all types of different departments within those businesses: sales, marketing, customer service, hospitality, technology, medical products. In
the same room, exactly. We've had everything from the CEO of a company all the way down to director levels, and then regular sales representatives, for example. So improv permeates the corporate structure quite well. at Google, I'll mention Google one more time, who is not yet a customer of ours. We'd like them to be. So Google, if you're listening, please call Advantage Improv. They encourage their young graduates to speak first at meetings. In other words, it's the reverse of what you and I, Robert, and Bob probably grew up with in corporate America, which is you speak when you're spoken to in corporate meetings, and you have to earn your seniority. But Google wants to keep their finger on the pulse of what's happening. Okay. And so they encourage young people to speak more and more often.
Very cool. That's very interesting. Okay, so let's take a break in a minute here. What I want to do is wrap it up and find a little bit more about you. Then we're going to dig into some of the issues you deal with. I mean, really what you're here is you're a solution provider, right? And you really help companies deal with certain issues that come up in the business world, whether it's in sales, customer service, or whatever else. But I want to find out a little bit more about you before we take our break. The question I have is, number one, you've been doing this for a long time, right? 20-something years off and on.
Yeah.
Lee, you're a published author. You've written some books.
Yeah.
And you've done this for major corporations, major institutions on all different scales, right? We're talking small, medium, large presentations to groups of thousands and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've been doing this separately. We met on stage at an improv show, and we discovered, hey, you're old like me. What's your story? And we found out that we're both longtime corporate executives. And we enjoy putting it all together. It's usually in the context of a team-building event. Okay. So they range from 90 minutes to a full day. And so it's a fun event. So it's encapsulated in this, hey, we're going to get to know each other. But there's a takeaway aspect to this team-building event. And that takeaway is that everybody goes home with nuggets of wisdom that they can actually apply to their everyday work after we're gone. Awesome.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's take a quick break. What I want to do when we come back is we'll talk about the issues and problems and things that you've helped companies confront and deal with, and then we'll dig into it and see what interesting stories you can give us.
Great. Sounds good.
Okay, great. Good. We'll take a break right now. Thank you very much.
Robert J. Curtis is the founder and CEO of Alpha Quantix, a premier provider of employee analytics and metrics that helps CEOs and managers of middle market companies hire the best, manage the best, and be the best. Robert is a keynote speaker, presenter, moderator, and panel member who regularly appears at conferences, business events, and association meetings nationwide. His presentations provide powerful information that gives CEOs and managers of middle market companies valuable insights to improve their hiring and engagement skills. If you'd like Robert to make a personal appearance, he can be contacted by visiting his show's website, bestcompanyshow.com, or by emailing Robert at info@bestcompanyshow.com.
And welcome back to the Best Company Show. I'm your host, Robert J. Curtis, and I'm here with two very special guests. I have Lee Godden and Bob Dahl of Advantage Improv, who are essentially nationwide, a fairly broad swath of experience, companies, exposure, assignments, and venues, events, everything that you're putting on a regular basis for major companies. And I guess I can drop a few names, Microsoft. Sure. and some of these others. Beckman Coulter, I think Aries Hotels. I mean, there's a little, if you go to the webpage. Oh, speaking of that,
sure.
Why don't we tell everybody how to reach you so that we before we go any further?
www.advantageimprov.com. That's improv without the E, like improve. AdvantageImprov.com.
That's right. You don't have to double check yourself when you're spelling that, right? Okay, and that's the best way to reach you. Have a phone number also?
Sure. 888-827-2328. 888-827-2328.
Okay, great. So what I want to dig into now and what I want to talk to you about are the issues that companies are dealing with that you're seeing out there, and that, I mean, you've a lot of experience, and so things come and go and things change, but maybe right about now, the last few years, what have you been seeing? What are the issues? What are the problems that companies confront when it comes to adapting to change, dealing with change, and those kind of things?
So yes, but would have to be pretty high up on the list.
Right.
Okay,
yes.
Tell me about it.
So yes, but is the natural human inclination when a coworker or any other human says what's on their mind. We will analyze it, and we will find holes and problems with it, and we will interrupt their creative flow by asking questions. As they're halfway finished describing their great new creative idea, we'll say, yeah, but, didn't we try that last year in northern Mexico? Yeah, but do we have the budget for that for fiscal year 2019? and it quashes the creative flow of the conversation. So what we teach is whenever you feel something coming up in your gut, like I'm about to say yes, but, change that into the improviser's mantra, which is yes and I'll let Bob explain what that is.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I want to find out what are these how are these problems arising though? Because they're not. You know what I mean? We don't think of them. And if it's ordinary conversation, apparently it's somewhat effective because that's what we do instinctively, right? So
and
tell me.
It could be a state of of modern business right now where people are kind of by themselves. So we're getting companies that say we have two departments that really don't talk to each other very much. Can we get them in the same room to really get on the same page? Okay. And by introducing this yes and principle where they can yes and one another, whether it's technology and marketing or sales and finance, now they're speaking on the same.
Okay, but before you get there, why weren't they communicating together? What was the issue there?
It's really what happens is you have the old school mentality of I'm the boss, here's the director, here's the manager, here are the worker bees, and that's where the communication will flow. It flows from top down, but that is not how effective businesses are run. Effective businesses are run through creativity and listening and having an open mind and resisting the urge to interrupt with whether it be questions or reasons why the idea won't work. And so the old school way was just great. I spent years working as a computer programmer in aerospace, and that's the way it was. I did what I was told to do, and that's just the way it is. But to be agile in today's economy, where you have competitors sneaking up right behind you before you even know it, they've overtaken you, you just can't afford that.
Okay, so there's the hierarchical thinking and the structure of organizations, which you're saying is contributes to this kind of yes but communication style. Before organizations were there, we probably had the yes but, or where you don't have a formalized organization, or where you have a personal relationship or something like that. You probably encounter the same circumstances. No.
Sure. Yeah, it really goes back to the improv comedy stage. If you look at improv, the Second City in Chicago, where all the Saturday Night Live players came from, and the Groundlings and so forth, that's improv comedy. And improv comedy shows, for which people pay $10, $20, $30 a ticket to make me laugh on a Saturday night, the improvised scenes simply would not be funny if the performers did not yes-and each other on stage. If they performed like normal human beings, everything out of the mouth of one improviser would be yes-butted by the other performer, and the audience would be like, well, this is a boring show.
Okay, but that works in an entertainment scenario.
Yep.
And in communication of creating stories and all this other stuff. Okay, let's get back to why do we need this in a business environment? What are the issues and what are the problems that business managers or owners are facing where they would need to open up that door to the yes and or to the creativity? Tell me some of the issues. I mean, what are your people when they call you up? You mentioned one.
Yeah.
Our two different departments aren't communicating.
Correct.
What other
and
things?
Sometimes that's just physical. Sometimes there's a department in one area and another department in another area. They should be communicating in person, but they don't.
Is it purely a communication issue? Is it really our senior management isn't able to communicate with the lower management or things, or are there other issues that come into play here?
I say trust and respect goes hand in hand. A lot of companies who hire us, they've recently merged. They perhaps acquired another company, and now you have maybe three different cultures that are involved. Perhaps there are two departments, sales and marketing is a common one we hear, where they just don't respect each other. They think, oh, those guys have it easy. No, those guys have it easy. And our job is to come in and increase the respect and trust level. And that's what Yes and is all about. It's about increasing trust and respect between two human beings.
Trust as in what? Describe that trust aspect between work, because you see these, everybody knows about the the classical team building activity where you fall backwards into a group of people and you trust that they're going to catch you, right? And that's a kind of a physical trust, I guess, in a sense of a trust that they will be there to back you up or whatever it might be. Is it the same kind of trust we're talking about, or are there different kinds of trust?
You just brought up the exact point that we always talk about, and that is we have your back. In improv, we always have each other's back. Our goal is to make each other look good, right?
Okay.
So in business, we often start off, or in the improv stage, we start off by patting each other on the back.
A physical pat here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lee, Bob, I've got your back tonight. So if I get that blind stare from you, where I don't have any ideas, I've got you covered. So if we can start every business day with that same attitude, I've got your back today. I'm going to support your ideas. I'm going to wait for you to finish presenting before I interrupt.
But the trust issue rises because people are ordinarily or most often walking into an office scenario or business scenario without that trust?
I hate to use the B word, but let's say it, backstabbing.
Okay.
I basically, when I got into sales and then sales management and then executive sales management, my career was honed by older people who came before me, who basically let me know that the way that you get ahead in sales is by making your scene partners, same color paycheck, same company, you destroy them, you slay them, you're the number one. And so anytime possible, if you can make your coworker, your scene partner, as it were, look bad, that'll make you look better. We're turning the tables on that. That's the old school way of running a team, certainly a sales team, which is it's all about me no matter what. Improv it's all about the scene. It's all about the team. It's not making about yourself look the best. At the end of an improv show, if an audience member comes up to you and says, "You were the funniest one we saw tonight," you failed. It means your job that night was to make yourself look funny and kind of gaggy and get all the chuckles. What we want to hear is, "Wow, this improv troupe, you guys as a team were hilarious. You were effective." So that's what we translate into the business world.
Okay, so basically, if I can summarize kind of a few of the things we talked about. We talked about hierarchical problems with the top-down management structure, which is inherent in a lot of organizations, although it's kind of evolving over time and depending on the organization, right? You've got the natural tendency to not be able to communicate for whatever reasons. Maybe it's distance, maybe it's ineffective or inability for whatever reason, logistical reason. It might be challenging, or just communication styles. Okay, and you got those issues. And now you're talking about, you're saying you got trust. So you guys are addressing all of these kind of issues. Okay, that is cool. And we'll talk a little bit about what you do for just a minute. But before we get into any detail on what you do, what I want to find out is, and it's been bugging me since we started the show, is you've got to have some really crazy stories. Come on. You got people on this stage, you got managers, you got other professionals, you've got owners of business, whoever, and we're talking big names, okay? They're in there in this environment, and they're doing improv, okay, and they're not professional artists, and actors and stuff. Tell me some stories. I want to know.
Before we tell the stories, first of all, let's just say that we're always amazed. Every time we're amazed that the people come up and become natural on stage. When they're really folding their arms in the back of the room saying, "There's no way I'm going to do this," they end up doing it, having fun, and getting a takeaway from it. And it still amazes us every time.
Okay. Now, I want to know. Tell me some crazy stories.
So I guess the biggest arm folder story that we have is the CEO of a large, we'll leave them unnamed for now. It's a large hospitality chain. It was in the back of the room. All of his sales directors were in the room for a 3-hour event that we had designed a customized curriculum for, and his arms were just folded across. I will not be involved in this. And he was encouraged through his workers, "Hey, come on up, Jim," and he wouldn't come up. Fast forward to the end of this 3-hour event. We have an exercise, it's a fun exercise called Dancing Diamond, where you have to change a dance to an actual musical tune, change the direction of the leadership, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 4 people on stage following the tip of the diamond. This guy, this 70-something-year-old CEO, is up on the stage doing the chicken dance in front of 40 people, 45 people in the room. Everybody's enjoying it. And after the event, he came up to us and pumped our hand to the point where it actually hurt our hands. He says, "Wow, guys, I get it. This yes and stuff is great."
All right, so that's really cool. So those are kind of the kind of experiences you live through on a regular basis when you go to these organizations and you open people's eyes to all this, right?
and I mean, the funniness of it is great, but also the satisfaction of knowing that our message of yes and our message of having each other's back really resonated. We had 2 gentlemen walk up to us at a trade show floor, 2 big burly guys. "We've been using the yes and all day long, and it's working."
Since we heard your workshop in the morning.
Workshop, right? So.
Okay, so use various tools, and the whole idea is to open up the whole dialogue process and open up the trust process, which is a yes and is kind of how you do it. Without giving away too many trade secrets. I mean, is there a methodology to it? Is there an idea
It's a
behind
muscle. When people are exposed to the concept of yes and, it feels foreign to them because as humans, we naturally want to go yes but. So what we encourage people to do is to work on that muscle. We give our students homework. We say tonight when you're in front of your significant other, practice yes and. Practice repeating back what the person just said to you and acknowledging and taking the conversation forward in a positive direction instead of questioning it and blocking it and using the but. It is a muscle that feels weird at first. Let's going to the gym and lifting a strange weight for the first time. It's not going to work on the first day. You got to do it over and over. When it becomes your mantra for communication, That's when the effectiveness really kicks in.
That's really cool. Okay, so we're going to come back in after a quick break here, and I'm going to throw a hot seat question at you.
Oh boy!
And hopefully it relates to it. Hopefully you guys can handle it. Wait, you're improvisers.
We can do it.
You can handle anything, right? Okay, great, good. But before we take a break, I want to thank everybody, the audience, for being here and watching and listening to us. I'm Robert Curtis from the Best Companies Show. You can reach us at www.bestcompanesshow.com. And you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm Robert J. Curtis at LinkedIn. If you want to track me down to distinguish me from a lot of the other Bobs out in the world,
There's
right?
a lot of us, yes.
And we'd love to hear from you. We'd like to hear comments. We'd like to hear guest suggestions, everything else. It's great to know you're listening and watching, and to have your ideas and your input and your feedback. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back for that hot seat question.
Excellent.
Robert J. Curtis is the founder and CEO of Alpha Quantix, a premier provider of employee analytics and metrics that helps CEOs and managers of middle market companies hire the best, manage the best, and be the best. Robert is a keynote speaker, presenter, moderator, and panel member who regularly appears at conferences, business events, and association meetings nationwide. His presentations provide powerful information that gives CEOs and managers of middle market companies valuable insights to improve their hiring and engagement skills. If you'd like Robert to make a personal appearance, he can be contacted by visiting his show's website, bestcompanyshow.com, or by emailing Robert at info@bestcompanyshow.com.
And welcome back again to the Best Company Show. I am Robert J. Curtis, your host. And I'm here with Lee Godden and Bob Dahl. It's almost like a tongue teaser trying to say your names right. Tongue twister. But anyway, I'm here from Advantage Improv, and this is time for the hot seat question. So let's go for it. Okay. Right. So here's the question. This just came up literally just in the last couple of days. News item hit. Google, Apple, a lot of other major employers in the United States have decided that they are not going to be requiring bachelor's degrees, university degrees anymore. They're going straight to the heart of it and hiring their people based upon whatever other qualities they see. Now, I look at that and say, look, okay, and this is what I tell my kids, right? The university degree and all of that, and probably the world that all three of us came from, and a lot of people out there came from, is a world where a university degree, maybe it didn't teach you the exact skills you needed for your job. As a matter of fact, one of the things I talk about when I'm talking with, giving training sessions and things like I do, one of the things I often mention is, hey, well, look, how many of you in the room actually use the skills you got at university for your job? And only half the people raise their hands, right? Now, the reason for talking about that is, and the reason for going to university is not necessarily because you're getting the exact skills you need. It's to open your mind. It's to show that you're achieving something. You will set out to accomplish goals, that you have the right mindset, quote unquote, to succeed. Now, if Apple and Google and these other companies are now dropping back and saying, well, we don't need that anymore, what's going on here? Aren't they missing out? Aren't they now lowering their standard to the point they're not going to get the people? Or what's going on? Are they looking at different skills? You tell me. What are your thoughts? Are they making a bad decision?
Wow, it's a big question.
Sorry,
it
took me a long time to ask it.
No. In other words, there's two sides that can be argued very well on it, I think, and that is there's certain occupations that have to have the skills done, and is university the best place to learn those skills? Probably yes. Let's say engineering and things like that. Brain surgeon. Yeah. Although we did pretty well.
You don't want a brain surgeon who's improvising, for example.
No, exactly. But I think engineering is one of those things where you need those technical skills even to get off the.
And you're going to get them at the university.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
But what about the rest of us?
Yeah, but I mean, sales, marketing. Some of the best sales managers I know, didn't have a formal education in terms of selling. Maybe they were English majors at college and things like that. So did they learn to sell at college, or did they learn how to learn when they were at school? And is that the aspect of university that Google is willing to forego?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. What are they? They're foregoing something here, right? Aren't they? They're literally saying, all this traditional institutional stuff that supposedly proves your muster, proves your ability to contribute, to succeed, to do well. We're not valuing that anymore, or we're valuing it less.
Yeah, they're baking it into a mixture, which is always a good thing. When you graduate with a 4-year degree, say from the local university here, UCI, which is a great campus, we've done workshops on on campus at University of California, Irvine. When you graduate with your 4-year degree, you are good at one thing for the most part, which is getting your degree. You've done it in a hyper-competitive university situation. A, you got in. B, you did quite well with A's or B's, and you graduated hopefully near the top of your class to get that great job. But what they don't really prepare you so much for at university is the everyday struggles of working in a group environment at a large corporation, which is very flexible and may turn on a dime. You may get a directive one day. What you've been doing for the last 6 months, forget it. We're going to do something totally different right now. Maybe not something that sits quite well with a 22, 23-year-old who's been working on one goal with not so many twists and turns through the last 4 years. So I think really going after people with that mindset of mental agility, if you will, above having just the degree, I think is going to prove to be very, very valuable for the companies that take that approach. So you
think it's going to be actually add to increase diversity, increase responsiveness, all those kind of qualities that you're looking at? I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I don't know if I agree with that 100%. At least I can't. For perspective of my kids, I want to encourage them to go to university. I want to encourage them to achieve those kind of things.
Can we turn it on its head and say that the universities need to change how they teach, maybe to cultivate what Google needs?
Okay,
right?
I like that thought. Now tell me, elaborate. Tell me more.
Well, I've seen, and when you look at LinkedIn and things like that, you see these degrees that people have, and sometimes you're like, I didn't know there was a degree in that. When I see people with an undergraduate degree in entrepreneurship, gosh, I wish there was one in entrepreneurship when I was going to school, and there was not. It was accounting, finance, marketing. The humanities, etc. So maybe there's a way of training people better in the schools.
And so maybe what they're telling, what Google and Amazon and everybody else are telling that are doing this, are telling the university system is that you're not evolving with the times, or maybe they're opening the doors. And one of the things I thought on this when I read the article is, hey, labor's getting tight, right? Yeah. So that might be part of it, but they don't necessarily have to. We're talking about organizations that still can get the cream of the crop, whether or not the labor market's tight or not.
I think it's half strategy on their part and half message. You're right. And the message is to the university systems, hey, send us graduates who are technically astute, but also have wicked good, as they say in Boston, communication skills.
Or we're going to find those people outside of
we're going to find those people elsewhere.
Organized system, the university system.
And some of the universities we've dealt with already, we were seeing that, I think. I think that actually we are seeing the people, the students doing more than just classical standard classroom work. They're getting in groups. They're doing these entrepreneurial clubs, etc. A little more advanced than I was back in the Stone Age. So,
we have a workshop we've done for universities called Yes and Hire Me, which is for graduating seniors who've done so well with their science and engineering degrees. But we in 2 hours teach them how to really connect with an interviewer, looking around the room, relaxing, mimicking the way that the interviewer is sitting, just mirroring that, nodding your head, eye contact, yes-anding, and the feedback that we've heard is that it's helped some graduates get jobs, which is good for universities.
And creative ways to articulate their degree.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, it's good to hear, and I like your feedback on it. It's an interesting story, and it's going to be a developing one as time goes on. Hopefully you guys are part of it. Hopefully I'm part of it, and everybody else listening and watching is part of it, and succeeding within the new world that we're creating, and Amazon and Google's and those people in the world are I think it's Apple in particular. I kept saying Amazon, but I think it's Apple, Google, and some of the others are interesting. Well, I want to thank everybody for being guests. First, I want to thank Lee and Bob here for being guests. Again, you're from Advantage Improv, which is I want you to you said it so articulately. At www?
Yes, www.advantageimprov.com. In fact, Bob, give us one more time with the website.
What do you mean, like the
voice
over there? www.advantageimprov.com.
There we go. Okay, awesome. And I am obviously Robert J. Curtis from the Best Companies Show at thebestcompaniesshow.com. And you can reach me also on LinkedIn, like I said. I'll be glad to hear from you. Looking forward to seeing you and hearing from you as to this podcast, this video, on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and various other places where you'll be able to find us. And we look forward to future episodes. And thank you very much for watching. Oh, before I sign off, one last thing. Paul Roberts, our engineer. Thank you so much, Paul, for putting us all together and keeping us stitched together for this show, as well as my producer, Roland Cantermar of Silver Dream Factory. Thank you, everybody who helps out putting this show on. I really appreciate it, and I think everybody does a great job. And thank you very much for watching and listening. We'll see you soon.
You've been listening to The Best Company Show, Southern California's business podcast, focusing on topics of interest to CEOs and managers of middle market companies, with your host, Robert J. Curtis.